friend, and welcome back. If you're a new viewer, welcome. I'm Christy Dranak, and I'm a watercolor artist. I have some classes online as well. I teach portraiture and some still life and little landscape stuff. So if you're interested in that, it'll be down in the detail box below. I had some requests to do a portrait, so I found a drawing I had done a while ago, and I thought, oh, I'll paint this Frida. So I'll just walk you through what I'm doing here, and I will do some more detailed video of the techniques, isolating them on their own and not showing a painting, but you can see how I do this in a full painting. So I created my drawing, and I do teach drawing using the grid method, so you can look that up. That way your eye just focuses on a certain section and you're not thinking this is an eye, because when you do that you tend to draw what you think an eye looks like instead of looking at that person's eye. So when you're learning, it's helpful to really look, well, always really look, but you have to train yourself to do that sometimes. I use the grid method, so you may want to look into that. And then painting this, I am doing, you saw some wet into wet, so that's when I wet the paper and then I start dropping color on. That's what I'm doing in the background there. And I'm dropping in 2 different colors of blue. I am using a couple of my favorites. I'm using a turquoise and Lunar Blue. So that Lunar Blue does that really pretty granulation, so where it's little pieces and flecks, it's separating the pigment. You can actually like see the pieces, particles. It's granulating. It's a granulating pigment, so it's real pretty. I'll note everything below. These are all Danielle Smith paints, and here I am dropping in some wet into wet, and I'm dropping in a bunch of colors. It's just more interesting, I think, if you put in a whole bunch of colors. And I'm being careful with this background because the background is still wet. So when I drop in those flowers, it's going to flow into the background a little bit, but I do want that to happen because I don't want her to look cut out from the background. So I want everything to be cohesive and go together. I'm not using a whole bunch of colors. I'm going to constantly use the same colors so that the painting is very cohesive. Here I'm using, for the skin tone, I use some red. I use red and yellow, and then I'll also use some burnt sienna sometimes, or some like ultramarine blue. And just drop that in all over her face where things are darker. And I'm really not focusing on color so much as I'm focusing on values. So under the neck there's shadow, under the nose there's shadow, under the lip there's shadow, and then there's usually shadows, you know, by the eye there where it falls back and stuff. So I'm really focusing on seeing those values is what I'm doing. And I'm dropping in a rainbow of colors because our skin tones have lots of undertones and things, and I just think it's fun to do that too. Frida was a very colorful painter, and I feel like she has a colorful personality, so she's a fun one to paint. You know, she always has the flowers in her hair, and I just made up her outfit. This kind of it was loosely based on a photograph on the internet that there is of her. It has a green background, but I changed her outfit. I think she was wearing like a black jacket. I wanted to give her a fun, bright outfit. So, and I changed the background color. It's kind of fun to do those things, you know, as an artist, you can do the things you like. So I like blues and pinks a lot. So that's where I went with this one. Her hair, I mixed using, again, so I'm constantly using the same core of colors. So since I used burnt sienna, I used that and a purple to make her hair. And then when I used the red, I used that red on her shirt as well, and I use that red to mix with like a yellow ochre to make her skin tone. So I'm constantly going in and using the colors over and over so that the painting all goes together and it doesn't get all crazy. And I'm doing the technique I do a lot of, and I will show this on its own in a video, is I will put down a layer of color, let that dry, and then I'll go over certain parts with a darker color, and then I'll go in with a damp brush and blend it out so there's not a hard edge, because I'll want to leave some of the under layer showing, and I'll only want to cover some with the darker values. So with watercolor, it's typical to paint from light to dark instead of dark to light. So you put in all your lightest colors. So when you're looking at your photograph or your reference, you want to see where everything is light, and you want to preserve the whites if there's going to be any whites that you're keeping. And then you want to put in the lightest skin tone color first, like so put a base layer of that. And then you're going to go in later and you're going to add the dark areas, and I blend, like I said, I blend it out using that damp brush. So I'll put the color down a little bit, not quite covering everything it'll need to cover, and then I'll get the damp brush and I'll blend it out over the layer so that it starts showing up. So now I'm starting to go in with some shadows here once everything has dried, and adding the shadows. I was careful with her hair when I did the background because I didn't want a big black blob in the background there. So I was careful. You can see a little bit where I left a little edge of white paper around her hair there. So you can blend that out later once everything dries up. With the eyes, I do the same thing. I go real light brown, and then I'll go in with darker and darker. Same thing on the lips there. My first layer was the lighter red. And then I go in again with that same color, but I just less water. And I will add the part that I want to be dark. So use that over and over again when painting with watercolor. And then the eyes and details kind of come last. I thought it was funny when I was painting this, without her eyebrows, it almost doesn't look like her, I thought. And I was like, oh, I should put her eyebrows on. But I didn't want to yet because they're so dark that I didn't want to grab any of that brown when I was doing more of her skin tone. I don't want to accidentally pull any of that and muddy it up. So I let it be. When I do the next shadow here, the first one, I'm using a Quinacradone orange, and I did use some blue with that, and it kind of turned green. I forgot about that. So when I use Quinacradone orange, I actually want to use a purple with that one to tone it down instead of an orange and a blue together. But I don't know why that one went green. I'll have to look at what blue I was using and look at the properties of each paint. But it wasn't too noticeable, but then I just switched to the purple and dropped it in. But yeah, I had a lot of fun painting this, and I thank you guys for requesting that I do so, because it's fun to paint portraits. And next week's, it is pretty much next week, but next month's watercolor challenge in July, I'm going to do portraits. I did take a poll, and almost everybody said, yeah, let's do portraits. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm going to bring in a guest artist or two as well, so that's going to be a lot of fun. So we're going to have a good time next month with portraits. So if you haven't joined the Watercolor Journal Club, you can go over to my Instagram. I'll have all the details below too. And you can check it out. It's totally free. You can just join us. You just post things, and we have a good little community going. I do some giveaways. I haven't decided on the July giveaway yet, but this month we were doing tiny watercolor journals. So I was giving away tiny watercolor journals. But we'll see for the portraits maybe I'll give away a portrait, or I'll probably take a poll and see what would be fun, but I'll figure something out for that. But this is a lot of fun. If you have any questions or any things you'd like me to cover in July about portraits, let me know. It helps me make the video so that it's interesting to you and helpful for you in your painting journey. So I would love to know, what you like about portraits, what struggles you have. If you have any questions with watercolor, anything like that. And I will just cover a lot of basic techniques too, so that will help you. But drawing, I know sometimes it's drawing that people have trouble with. So take a look at the grid method. I may put a video up on that too, but you could probably find one. I'm guessing on YouTube. I haven't looked, but there's probably a lot of people doing that. That's been around forever. So grid method's good. Also upside down drawing. So if you take your reference and you turn it upside down, and you draw it that way. That is from the book Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, and it is a very good book. I think it's Betty Edwards, I believe, and that's very good because what it does is it tricks your brain, and your brain can't say, oh, I'm drawing an eye right now. So you have to look. You have to really look to get the shape, and you'll be surprised. If you haven't done that, your drawing comes out really, really good. So that's another way to go to learn to start to having that artist eye where you're looking and seeing the shapes. And then values, a lot of people see values really well by squinting, or sometimes you could, if you prefer, you could take a picture and then turn it black and white, and then, where the darkest darks, you'll see that, and you can do that. It can be hard for people with color, so you could start with a monochromatic painting where it's just one color and practice that way, and then start adding with color, because color can read a little differently sometimes. Like a yellow, even though it's a dark yellow, is still going to be lighter than like a really dark blue and things. So yeah, just practice with that. Those things, that'll be my big tips right now, would be the value and then the drawing. And then the watercolor stuff, I'll show some techniques, and you'll have lots of fun. It's lots of fun. That's my favorite part, is the painting part. So I was kind of excited when I found this drawing all ready to go. But if you haven't already, I would love it if you comment, like, and subscribe to my channel. I have videos coming out weekly. If you're interested in that watercolor Journal Club. You can join us over on Instagram under the hashtag Watercolor Journal Club. This month we were doing tiny watercolors in June is the hashtag. So we had lots of fun ones. We had florals, animals, and food, and then how to make the watercolor journal. So I have all those videos up here too if you want to check out my channel. Those videos are my most recent ones besides this one. So yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, again, just let me know down in the comments below or hit me up over on Instagram. Have a great day and happy painting.